Today is the fourth day of this January 1984 7-day retreat. Before continuing with some more readings of the sayings and dialogues of Bankei, a few words about effort. Someone asked in a meeting after yesterday's talk, which included the biography and some of the sayings of Bankei, and I'm not quoting this person verbatim. I can't do that, I don't remember it that way. But the essence of his question was, are you saying that we shouldn't exert ourselves? We shouldn't make an effort? Was one answer that could be given. Without trying to be, I don't know what the word is, glib, is why do you ask me, or what difference does it make what you think I say, or Bankei says? What do you find you need to do yourself? But let's just talk a little bit about exertion and effort. I make an exertion, a great exertion or effort if I have a goal in mind, and I make up my mind I'm going to attain that. I'm going to get that, or do that, become that. And I spare no effort, leave no stone unturned. Anything to get there, or to be that. One can examine for oneself whether such goals which demand these all-out efforts and exertions have ingredients of self-satisfaction, self-aggrandizement, etc. We've talked about it a lot. Or trying to get away from an intolerable feeling of incompetence or inadequacy, insufficiency. Whether these goals don't constantly need to flush through the mind to generate the energy to attain them, to inspire the effort. And also, effort is needed because hindrances need to be overcome. Hindrances on the way. If there are no hindrances, there's no effort. To overcome them. In this work of looking into oneself, trying to find out about oneself as one lives from moment to moment, trying to find out who one really is, one may feel it takes tremendous effort to do this because one doesn't want to do it. One much rather follows habitual laid out paths or grooves of distraction, entertainment, pleasure, absorption in work, which may not be without exertion either, but it's a way away from the resistance to look at oneself, to uncover, as one person put it, Pandora's box. The fear of what one may discover, and that fear is there because one has had glimpses of it. One doesn't want to look any further for fear of what else may be there. So much easier to continue and perpetuate the image of oneself, which has been long implanted by parents, teachers, and so forth, of being a nice person, a good person. And to squeeze, as it were, inspiration out of these images time and time again. Not that one is not a nice or a good person, one doesn't know. One has to look. What is all there? And for that, one has to put aside the images, so that the vision is clear and free, unobstructed. But because of the resistance that is generated by oneself against this looking, therefore, this work is effort, or seems to be effort. What if the resistance itself becomes the thing to look at, inquire into? You say, well, wait a minute, you're just playing with words now. I'm not playing with words. One can do it. One comes to a point where one will go no further with what one has done all one's life. One stops in one's tracks and begins to wonder and ask and look. Not that all habits are instantly terminated, but one starts observing them, no matter what is revealed. And if, as is talked about so often, repeatedly, because it's so necessary to hear it over and over again, that there's no need to identify with what one sees. The identification, this is me, is immediately a resistance again, and therefore one doesn't want to continue. I am not like that, I don't want to be like that. I want to be different, I know I'm different. People have told me that. So why identify in the first place, either with ugly things, as one person put it, or praiseworthy, nice behavior? Why identify with either? It all blurs the vision. What is this straightforward looking and seeing? And as one does this because one has to do it, one has no choice, because one knows what happens if one doesn't. All the cruel or stupid, thoughtless things we do happen when we're not watching, when we're inattentively acting within and out of this shell, which is the me, the self. And if one does this work, it's meaningful, it's deeply meaningful. It may be the most meaningful thing in one's life that one is doing. Then the resistance, as if miraculously, diminishes and disappears. And therefore, it becomes effortless. not painless necessarily, or constant delight and joy. There's nothing constant. Constancy is one of our pet beliefs and thoughts and hopes, at least constancy of what's pleasurable. Continuation of me in my pleasurable states. I won't go into this right now. We'll read some more from Bankei. Let me say that these selections are not read to promote Bankei's teaching, identify with it. So can one just listen to the words that are spoken and move with them openly? They are only meaningful if at the moment something is seen or something opens up. To mull over them later is not meaningful, because then one lives in memories and a not quite correct recall, which may be entertaining and more stimulating than just sitting in boredom. But boredom is not boredom if one looks at it and questions it, puts the who, moo, or what right in the midst of it. Then what is it? Once the word doesn't already condition the mind to its state, which is free and open and very flexible and fluid. We start reading from a different book than yesterday. This one is called The Original Face, an Anthology of Rinzai Zen, translated and edited by Thomas Cleary. And one of the sections is called Sayings of Bankei. A monk asked, "All wild thoughts of mundane passions are hard to subdue. How can they be quieted?" All wild thoughts of mundane passions are hard to subdue. How can they be quieted? The master replied, "Thinking of trying to annihilate wild thoughts is also a wild thought. Although wandering thoughts are originally non-existent, they are produced by your own conception." Someone asked, "Last year when I asked you how to stop the arising of mixed-up thoughts, you told me to let thoughts be as they arise and cease. Afterward, faithfully trying to put this into practice, it's hard to get to let them be as they arise and cease. It's hard to get to let them be as they arise and cease." The master replied, "It's hard to attain because you think there is a rule to let thoughts be as they arise and cease." Do you hear what he's saying? He said that, therefore I should do that. I can't do it, so what's wrong with me? Can one see that thought arising and what it does to the whole body and mind? There's no, I should do this. That's a thought. Can one see it? And if one glimpses it, I just thought I should do that. is then the next thought, I shouldn't think I should. When does this come to a full stop? There are such pauses. Strangely enough, there are. When judgment abates. And if there's awareness and the meat tries to get hold of it, how can I make that last? This moment without judgment, which is the arising of a new thought and desire. The Soto Zen master Yui came to see Bankei and asked, I was inspired when I was 17 or 18, and for over 30 years I have sat long, becoming single-minded. Yet errant thoughts and deceptive consciousness are hard to erase. In recent years, my mind and knowledge have been clear and I have realized peace. How did you apply your mind in the past? And Master Bankei replied, when I was young, I too had a lot of trouble with thoughts, but I suddenly realized that the source of our school is the enlightened eye. And even among the ancients there was none who helped people as long as his own eyes were not clear. From the beginning, transcending all considerations of self, I worked only on attainment of the enlightened eye. For this reason I can freely discern whether people have this eye or not. Someone asked about Zazen, sitting meditation, and the master replied, Zazen means merging with the inconceivable wisdom innate in every one. Before getting involved in considerations and discriminations, this is called Zen meditation. Outward detachment from all things is called sitting. Just sitting with your eyes closed is not sitting meditation. Only sitting in communion with the inconceivable is worthwhile meditation. Actually, it says here inconceivable knowledge, but he doesn't mean knowledge in terms of what's stored up in the mind. Inconceivable is what cannot be conceived, what cannot be thought about. And what is communion with that? Communion with the inconceivable. Has this become a state to be attained? Or as one sits with an ache in the back, one doesn't say, I've got an aching back. One may say that, and then one puts those words away and communes with this as something inconceivable. A sound, a sensation, a thought. What is it when I don't put it immediately into a category of known stuff? Listen. You can say it's the wind in the trees, but it's much more than that. And these words take away. So, one listens without the words, then what is everything? And is there this communion, which means not two, or 3 or 4 or 35? He continues, all delusion is routine misunderstanding because of relying on thoughts. When angry thoughts appear, you become demons. Lust makes animals, greed makes hungry ghosts. While you have thoughts, if you practice virtue, there will be good causes and effects, and if you do evil, there will be bad causes and effects. If you detach from thought and harmonize with inconceivable knowledge, the state of not knowing we've been talking about, there are no causes or effects. Now when I speak this way, it may seem like a view of nothingness, nothing at all. But it is not so. The reason is that when I speak this way, you all hear. Even though you have no particular thought of hearing this, because the original knowledge inherent in everyone is aware and clear, and you can hear distinctly. When you touch fire or water, everybody knows without learning that fire is hot and water cool, because this is activity apart from thought. One may not have the word, a little child, baby may not have the word fire or hot, but there's discerning, there's clear perception without words. This activity is apart from thought, even though without thought it cannot be said to be nothing. This fundamental inconceivable knowledge is beyond the dual idea of existence and non-existence, and freely communes with all things, like a clear mirror distinctly reflecting the images of things. We'll add, as they are. Thus, what conceptualization do you need? Conceptualization is discrimination because of confusion. If you reach the non-conceptual, you illumine things before conception. You illumine and discern things before conception. What he means is, the hearing is there before you say, that was a bell. That was the trees. The rushing in of the water. The perception is there first. But so quickly is the thought there, and then we see the thought. And all the associations that the thought triggers throughout this body and mind of the past, the infinite past. Therefore, sitting meditation of the unborn, inconceivable knowledge is the highest practice. Also once he said, the inner truth which I discovered when I was living in a hermitage when I was 26, did not differ in the slightest from the truth when I met the Chinese Zen master Dai and got his testimony of enlightenment, or right now today. However, as far as complete illumination of the eye of objective reality and realization of great freedom is concerned, I am as different now from when I met Dai as sky is from the earth. And someone asked, is the complete illumination of the eye of reality accomplished with time and season? Or is it realized even in one day? And the Master replied, it is not a matter of time and season. It is accomplished only when the eye is clear, without any gap. It is accomplished by single-minded devotion to nurturing it. It says in 1684, during a retreat at Korinji in Tokyo, one day in the meditation hall, Isan, who was one of the monks, had worked with Bankei for a long time. Isan had an overwhelming transformation of state and went to see Bankei alone. He said, this Isan said to Bankei, up till now I have believed your teaching and have been fooled by your words. That's an interesting way of putting it. Up till now I've believed your teaching and have been fooled by your words. Today I don't depend on the teacher's words. I have come to know my own business directly. Even so, all this is just what you've always been saying. It's hard to express in words. And the Master replied, even though you don't say it, I know it. What he means by knowing is understand. Seeing the same thing, which is no thing. No you, no me. Us and them. At one point the Master said, it is easy to get to the state where there is no doubt and no questioning, but the truth is exceedingly profound, knowledge and wisdom extremely deep. The farther you go, the deeper they are. Here we're reading again from selections over different years from the Eastern Buddhist. The translator is Norman Waddell. A layman asked, when I get rid of a thought that comes into my mind, another thought appears right afterwards, and this continues on repeatedly. What can I do to overcome it? Bankei said, cutting off occurring thoughts is like washing blood off in blood. The original blood may be washed off, but you're still defiled by the blood you washed in. You can wash it as much as you like, the bloodstains won't go away. You don't know that your mind is originally unborn and undying, that it is free of illusion, and you think that thoughts really exist, so you revolve in the cycle of birth and death. You must realize that thoughts are temporary, changing appearances, and neither seize on them or hate them, but let them occur and cease of themselves. It's like the image reflected in a mirror. The mirror is clear and bright and reflects whatever is placed before it. But the image does not stay in the mirror. Your awakened mind is 10,000 times brighter than a mirror, and what's more, it is an illuminating wisdom, so all thoughts disappear within its light without a trace. The way Bankei often puts it, you've been born with this, you have this Buddha mind or this enlightened mind, this unborn mind. The danger in expressing it this way is that there is set up the idea of ownership. I have that. And I must find that within myself so I can have it and own it and enjoy it. Use it to solve my problems. But this clear mind is precisely clear because there's no ownership, there's no owner. There's no one who has it. This is why it's so necessary to see and discover and observe all these ideas of me and mine and ownership, and see them without saying these are my thoughts. To see without ownership. That seeing is that mind. What is seen is not of great importance, but the seeing which is clear and without possessor or manipulator or controller, without anyone there. It's in that there's wholeness. And lovingness. Which is not any studied expression of I love you. Or learned expression. The priest said, I have great difficulty subduing all the troubling worldly thoughts in my mind. One sees that throughout the generations it's the same problem, no matter where the people are, east or west, today or hundreds of years ago. All the troubling worldly thoughts in my mind, how can I overcome them? I guess this is the same we read before, just slightly different translation, so I'll skip it. A layman said, I agree with what you say about seeing and hearing by means of the unborn. I agree with what you say about seeing and hearing by means of the unborn. But while you're asleep, you don't even know when someone is right next to you. Then the unborn's virtue is lost. Bankei said, what loss is there? There's no loss, you're just sleeping. In thinking, we manage to make a problem out of everything. A layman asked, for many years I have devoted myself to the teachings of the ancient masters. I have sought single-mindedly to know who is the master of seeing and hearing. But to this day I have not been able to search him out. How should I practice so I can find the master of seeing and hearing? Bankei said, my school is the sect of the Buddha mind. The master of seeing and hearing and the person who searches for him are not two. If you look outside yourself, you go all over the globe, but you will never find him. The one mind, unborn, that is the master in every man. When any of your six senses is exposed to a cause, your eyes seeing forms, your ears hearing sounds, and so on, he is fully revealed without any veil or obstruction in your seeing, hearing, and perceiving. Is he? Is that so? Or is there the duality of me hearing that? That being at a distance from me and subject to criticism, control, objections, wanting to have it, hating it. A Zen monk said, my only desire at this time is to attain Buddhahood for certain and become an utterly good person. Please give me your instruction. Bankei said, you've come from far away and your aspirations are admirable, but they are all illusions. The original mind has absolutely no illusions, no desires or aspirations whatever. Because the virtue of original being's illuminating wisdom, all things are in perfect harmony, without any desires or hopes. The idea of wanting to hasten to Buddhahood is troublesome too. When you realize that all your hopes and aspirations are produced by you yourself, don't get caught up in anything and just be as you are when you were born. Then your original being's own nature will manifest itself. One can say, well then, what about a little baby, a little child? Question is often asked. Used to be more than now when we don't talk so much about enlightenment and so forth. Is the little child enlightened? One thing one must always look, why is one asking that? And it's often interesting to see what reasons one has to ask a question like this. One may also think it's impossible. Biologically, it's impossible to become a little child. But there's one thing about a little child as one observes children with their parents, their teachers, oneself. Children are totally helpless in the face of training, conditioning. Anything can be imprinted into a child. Any belief, any dogma. And it's just received without resistance most of the time. And becomes a very heavy, encrusted, deep-seated pattern. Because there's no understanding of that, no seeing of that, but a great dependence on the parents. And for the sake of their nourishing and loving and keeping one does anything to please them and even just to imitate them. We spoke about that yesterday, as was demonstrated in so many animal documentaries, this deep, innate instinct to imitate for survival. And then to take that for the truth, the right way, defend it. Because one is now identified with, that's the operation of thought. I am all this. And if you take that away or question it, you question my whole existence. And I'm afraid of that. I don't want any part of it. Unless this thick crust begins to crack and some light and wind and rain drips in, seeps in, which makes questioning possible. This is one great freedom we have to question. Are we using it? A layman said, "Master, I've heard that you can see right into people's minds. Right now, what am I thinking?" Bankei said, "You're thinking that." A woman said, "As women are beings with deep karma, they aren't allowed to climb venerable mountains such as Mount Koya and Mount Hei. Their precincts are closed to women." Bankei said, "There's a nunnery in Kamakura, it is closed to men." A layman said, "I'm sometimes startled by unexpected noises or the clap of thunder. Perhaps it's because I'm not tranquil normally. How can I keep on guard so that nothing at all will startle me?" Bankei said, "When you're startled, you should stay just the way you are. If you guard against it, you become two." This could be so much expanded. All the worrying we do about what will happen to us cuts it right there in two. Here I am, nothing really happening to me, but what will happen to me? And one can paint any kind of picture and come up with all the corresponding emotions. The thing may never happen, and one has worried oneself wrinkled and grey, and with internal malfunctions. So how can I guard against worrying? To be right with a worry. Not keep on painting the pictures, but with all the symptoms that it evokes. Be with it. Be that. And add no further by being with it. When you're really with something, there's no room to add. There's only what is. And that takes care of itself in this awareness and witness. Which is of an embracing quality. A priest said Toksan had his staff, Rinzai had his cuts. Worthy Zen masters of the past all exercised the jurisdiction of staff and cuts. Cuts were shouts. No question or answer except just either a whack or a cut. Sometimes supposedly so ear-shattering a person couldn't hear for a week. And the person here says, still, you employ neither. Why? Bankei said, Toksan was able to use the staff, Rinzai was able to use the cuts. As for me, I'm able to use my tongue. Here a priest said, a Zen master of the past said that great enlightenment comes from great doubt. Yet you don't make use of the great doubt in practicers. Why? Bankei said, you speak of a great doubt. Long ago, when Nangaku went to the sixth patriarch, and the sixth patriarch asked him, what is it that thus comes? Sixth patriarch, by then a famous teacher, and Nangaku walked a long ways to come to speak to him, and no sooner had he entered, sixth patriarch says, what is it that thus comes? Nangaku was totally bewildered and for 8 years had doubts about it. Then he gave the reply, after 8 years it says here. In some versions he says it immediately, so you see what kind of a transmission of anecdotes this is. It's always changing. But it doesn't matter. After 8 years or immediately, it doesn't matter. The reply he gave was, the moment you say it is this, you've missed the mark. The moment you say, I'm this or that, you've missed the mark. So who am I? Who are you? Who are we? Bankei continues, that is really great doubt and great enlightenment. Not knowing, and for 8 years questioning without having the answer. He goes on, if you lost your only solace that you received when you became a priest, and were unable to find it, no matter how hard you looked for it, you would continue to search and would be unable to stop, even for an instant. That is real doubt. People nowadays say that they must have a doubt because people in the past had a doubt, and so they cultivate a doubt. That's merely an imitation of a doubt, not a real doubt. Thus the day never comes when they arrive at a real resolution. It's as if you were go off searching for something you hadn't really lost, pretending that you had. That's why it's so important to have a real question. And that real question comes when there's a real observation in our daily life. A question that will not let go of one. Times it may abate, and then it surfaces again. But it's my question. Nobody is imposing it upon me. And I'm not manufacturing it because I think I ought to have a doubt. So in the past, so many people used to come and say, I have no doubt. Can you help me get one? You have no doubt? Sometimes these words are misleading. How is one living when one disregards rosy memories, and memories often are very selective little scenes that one likes to replay and replay? But how is one living now in relationship? With the people nearest to one and not so near and farther and very far away. One winter when Bankei went to preach during a retreat, laymen and priests came from these and those provinces and assembled in great numbers to hear him. There was a priest who had a highly learned cleric, there was a sect whose head priest was a highly learned cleric, much respected by his congregation. At that time Bankei's Zen teaching inspired great reverence all around, and so the Nichiren priest's congregation all came to hear him. Resenting this, the priest told him, I've heard that Bankei is an ignorant priest. If I go there and question him, I'll stop him with a single word. So saying, one day he went to attend a meeting. He stood at the rear of the assembly, and in the middle of Bankei's talk said in a very loud voice, all the people here listen and accept your sermon, they believe in it. But someone like myself could hardly accept the essential point of your teaching. How can you save me when I don't accept it? Bankei raised up his fan and said, would you move forward a little? Priest moved forward. Then Bankei said, please come forward a little more. The priest advanced again. Look, Bankei said, how well you accept it. The priest withdrew without saying a word. Bankei is not talking about someone obeying him. Do you get it? It's hearing. And the right action that comes out of hearing. At that moment he probably didn't know. No particular ideas one way or the other. Come forward, so he moved. But he didn't see. What is it that thus sits, walks, eats, sleeps, gets up, brushes the teeth, walks, crunch, 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 or slides? What is it that hears? The wind and the waves? Or is it the wind and the waves? What is it? Or you don't know.